I've had people say astrology can give you insight. It just doesn't matter to astrologers.
You had a tweet recently that, something I've been playing with similar ideas. I actually talked about this with Stephen Bartlett on his podcast, Diary of a CEO, where at the very end, he gives me the highest compliment. He says, you and Neil deGrasse Tyson are very good at explaining things to lay people.
I've met you and Neil deGrasse Tyson, who have this remarkable ability to communicate science in a way that inspires, galvanizes, and sort of cultivates curiosity.
So I took that as a great compliment.
Oh, excellent.
At least for one of us. But the tweet that you had that referenced what he asked me to basically, see if I can debunk astrology. And you put out this tweet, basically, which I've been saying, to some of my friends and my students, if you were born in late November, you're actually an Ophiuchus, which sounds dirty. It's like panspermia. It sounds dirty, but it's not. It's actually fine. It's a perfectly legitimate scientific term. And so Ophiuchus would have been so how does that?
Ophiuchian.
You'd be Well, would you? A Libra. I'm a Virgo.
Libran.
Yeah.
Just if you properly do the word in the way, Ophiuchus is the constellation, and if you're of Ophiuchus, you'd be Ophiuchian. That's all.
Now, doesn't that just obliterate astrology right then? And they never knew about it, right? They never talked about it, and they never knew about it. And if you tell them about it, they'll deny it. They'll say it doesn't matter. These are just arbitrary. Oh, so it's just an arbitrary distinction. What constellations the astronomers draw. So why isn't it arbitrary what you astrologers draw from the place of the sun on my Mother's Day of giving birth to me?
But it's worse than that. So let's assume that Ophiuchus was just ignored from the original assessment of the 12 constellations of the zodiac. I'm just highlighting it as a reality, but if that reality doesn't matter, there's another reality that should, and that's, of course, that Earth precesses on its axis, and the alignment of the sun with the zodiacal constellation is shifted by an entire month. So, and you can look this up yourself at any star chart, which shows where the sun is at what time of year. And it does not match up. It just doesn't matter to astrologers. So I've had people say astrology can give you insight into a person's personality and their traits and all these. And then they'll say, well, what's your sign? They ask of me. And I said, well, if astrology is that potent, you should be able to figure it out. Why should I have to tell you? All right. I taught a class at the Hayden Planetarium long ago. And one woman afterwards came up to me and said she was a professional astrologer, and she thought she'd get some tips on astronomy to help her do her task. And that's when before there was an internet and before I was, this information would have been publicly known. She said, well, what's your sign? And I said, that's when I engaged this exercise. I said, shouldn't you be able to figure it out? She said, oh, okay, you're a Gemini. And I said, no. Oh, the Taurus. I said, no. And she goes through 8 constellations. Okay. The 9th one is correct. And when she guesses that correctly, she says, I knew it. So it's so what's going on here is people, I think, have no clue how and why statistics work. And I don't blame people for that. I make this point in the Cosmic Perspectives book that the human brain doesn't seem to be wired to think statistically or probabilistically about anything, leaving us susceptible to that weakness being exploited by entities such as casinos who rely on your false intuition about probability and statistics for them to even stay in business.
And look at how ornate they are. You're literally walking into a place that screams out, I am going to rob you. But yeah, to your point about statistics, when you got on the 9th one, I used to say to my innumerate friends, I'd say, when I meet them or whatever, I'd say, I can guess your birth month with 50% accuracy from just one statement about you. So I can guess, within plus or minus of your birthday by 1 month, but I can only get it 50% of the time. Of course, it's like, yeah, I'm guessing you're giving me 3 months leeway, basically. So I should be able to do that half the time or 3/4. Anyway, in the book, you actually, and in Merlin's book, you have a quip that I will forever love, which is, there's nothing logical about things astrological.
Yeah, that's how I end that question. Yeah, that's Merlin talking there. That's Merlin.
I know it's Merlin.
Merlin has all the wit. I've just, whatever wit I have is borrowed from Merlin. Merlin has the fully developed wit.